Good morning. Good morning. It's Saturday morning. It's day 5 of 365 days of either live streaming and or videos if I can't quite make it. So for those of you that caught up with me last night, yesterday, you had a kind of a double whammy really. So my intention for the next year is to preferably go live at 10 a.m, 2 p.m, or 10 p.m. UK time, not all three, one of those, in keeping with whatever's in my diary, you know, whatever is in my day, but to come and preferably stream live to you. But on the days that I know that I can't, I will record a video and let you know that it's pre-recorded and still put it out at one of those times with the relevant hashtag of the day that we're in. So today is day 5. So if you're watching this live, you won't see any hashtags, but afterwards I'll just add them in. So today I wanted to talk about what felt to me personally like a pretty profound moment. Why it felt profound, what it was, how it changed my thinking, and how it could possibly benefit anyone else who's watching this live. So I hope not to go for too long. It's a Saturday and I am still decompressing from 2 days attending a live event in London, in Wembley to be precise. So as one of the most kind of extroverted people that loves the energy of others, I have a little slice of introversion where I just need to hole up, decompress and all sorts of things. And there's probably even more reasons for me wanting to do that right now. So I attended a 2-day event and right at the end of the event, there were many great keynote speakers, like let's not get that twisted, but at the end of this particular 2-day event was a person known as, or a man known as Wim Hof, with one F. So many people have read the memo, they know who he is, they know what he does, they've read his books, they go, do ice baths, do kind of other extreme things, cold water things as well. As I know many of my friends, colleagues, peers do as well. I'm going to take a sip of water because I sound like Madge from Neighbours back in the day. I have, funny I'm talking about ice and cold, and I have a hot drink. Echinacea tea with a little bit of apple and ginger added in as well. All hot things, not cold things. Anyway, so after giving a talk, very short talk, very brief talk to the room, we, of course, as always, were invited to ask questions. So there's a couple of things that I want to share about that moment, some more profound than others, some practical. So the first thing is, if you have ever been in a room of people and there's a speaker at the front, well-known or otherwise, and you've wanted to ask a question, one of the things that I actually talk about in the second pillar of visibility, which is about impact and your ability to make an impact. One of the things that people often tell me is, oh, no one ever picks me. You know, it kind of comes down the family tree of, I never win anything, but no one ever picks me. People don't take me seriously. I said this thing, and then 5 minutes later, somebody said the same thing, and everyone was like, woohooing. And I was just like, but I already said that, and nobody seemed to hear. So one of the things that can be a cause of frustration for people in the audience is if they want to ask a question, they put their hand up and they don't get picked. Now, here's the difference. I'm actually going to demonstrate this, and I'm not going to say anything about what I'm doing because the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. So people will often say, the speaker will invite questions, or the host or the panel person will invite questions, and people they'll normally say, if anyone's got questions, raise your hand, something like we'll bring a mic to you or we'll bring somebody to you. And the first thing, given that most people are already sitting down, they do this. Okay, so that's the next thing, and clue is they're sitting down. Personally, when it comes to me and when it comes to advising and consulting with my own clients, I advise them to stand up at least. It doesn't matter how tall or short you are, stand up and put your hand in the air. The next thing people do, they feel a bit more confident that they might get selected to ask a question, so then they'll put their hand like right up. Or they might be excited, I'll stand back, so they kind of go, pick me, pick me. Now, whether you're sitting down or standing up, when this happened yesterday, a really dear friend of mine, I said, I'm going to ask the question. And I started looking around to see where the people with the mics were. Not necessarily where the person at the front of the room was looking, because they're engaged, they're working, they're doing something. They're not scanning a 400-person audience to see, oh, I wonder if anyone's got any questions, until the moment they ask, and then they might kind of look up and around. So my friend said to me, well, you know, I'll just, I'll go over and have a word with that woman over. And I was like, don't worry, I've got it handled. At which point, I'm sure they must have for a second gone, what's she talking about? She's got it handled. So the first thing I do is, in my brain, I will get selected. That's the first thing. A very empowering belief, not a disempowering belief. Oh, they never picked me. You know, you don't have to say anything, but that stuff kind of comes out of your pores. So when they asked the question again, I had already done that. Yeah, they'll definitely pick me. But here's what I did when I put my hand up, and I'll do it kind of almost in slow motion so that you can see the difference between that. Okay, so here's what I did. Now, I was right at the back of the room. I couldn't have been any further back. I was actually behind the chairs, and there was a row of chairs at the back wall. So I was right, like, the furthest away. So when I did that, as the speaker had just finished and invited questions and looked around, he said, okay, and pointed to me. And at this point, he'd already pointed to me, and I stood up, whilst keeping my hand in the air. Not waving, not doing this, but very firmly, and I stood up. I was quite stoic. I didn't move around, I didn't blink, I didn't smile, I didn't grin, I didn't do any of that. So I was picked. So I wanted to share that because that's something quite practical. There's a little bit more behind it. I don't have time for it on this video, especially as I don't want, 7 minutes. I don't want to make it an extra long video. I'm going to try and keep it at least under 10 minutes so that hopefully I can post this on LinkedIn too. So that was the first thing that I wanted to share in terms of when you want something, head, heart and hands. Go for the head. What is your mind telling you? Get rid of all the stuff that tells you you can't do something or you won't be successful. The heart, number 2. I wanted to ask a question, and this didn't come from a place of ego. It was a genuine question based on something that had been said and an experience that I had too. Perhaps one for another time. Maybe I'll share tomorrow as it's the weekend. And thing number 3, the actual physical knowing what to do, and in a way, what not to do, I believe was the thing that got me picked. I don't know, maybe we talk to the host and maybe they'll just say, oh, you know, something else. But I've taught this to thousands of people over the last 14 years, and it's worked every time, even when people are ordering a drink at a very busy or crowded bar. It works there too. I think that's why my corporates like that particular one. Anyway, so moving on. So the question I asked Wim Hof, which was, his answer was profound. And I'm still almost like decompressing and percolating from not only his answer, but a couple of the other things and experiences that I had there yesterday. So he was talking about his methodology, but not in this way. He was talking about the methodology of cold and all of that kind of stuff and possibility, really. And he'd mentioned endometriosis, but hadn't quite kind of finished his sentence. So the question I asked went something like, you were talking about endometriosis, and I was keen to know more about how this methodology is helpful for somebody with endometriosis, not specifically to cure endometriosis, but I was curious about the pain kind of regulation of it, pain relief of it. That's all I asked. The question, no backstory. I didn't tell him that I was officially diagnosed with endometriosis 27 years ago. I didn't tell him all about the operations and the experiences, some good, some not so great. I didn't tell him about all the millions of women in the world who are still undiagnosed. I didn't go into the detail about all of the other women, and it affects men as well, which some people don't know. Women and men But all of those people that go to the doctors, talk to the doctor, and God love you doctors, but those of you that turn those people away in huge amounts of pain, like living with huge amounts of pain, and tell them to take a paracetamol and to have a cup of tea, I'm sorry, I'm sure you didn't become a doctor to do that. And I say this with good integrity. I've had many clients who have been doctors, and actually was sat very close to a practicing doctor who also has their own kind of methodologies, who was whooping, cheering, and, you know, really supportive of the message too. So I know that there are also, or equally, just as many doctors out there, surgeons out there that believe in the kind of melding of the two. Okay, but if you're a doctor that listens to this and think this is a load of bull, then this video isn't for you. That's fine. Off you go and read your book and do whatever it is you want to do. So I didn't give all of that kind of context or background. I simply asked the question. Now, there's a couple of things I noticed in the answer to the question. There was what Wim said verbally when he answered the question. And I commented again to the friend that I was with about how I noticed his energy shift. So he's quite cheeky, quite funny. I really like people like that. And you notice when he's being cheeky or funny or cracking jokes, his energy goes into one kind of space or state. And when he's speaking to you and delivering something else, his energy goes into another state. Now, I kid you not, when he answered the question, and I'll try not to butcher what he said in terms of the answer to that question, but when he answered the question, the thing that I noticed, being one of many hundred people in a room, was his presence when he answered the question. Now, this stands out to me because given that I'm speaking to you on video, people often comment about, you're quite articulate, you know, you come across as very natural, and I never use scripts on my videos. There's no point. I can't connect with you when I'm doing this, or when I'm looking at a teleprompter doing that, or when I'm so nervous about forgetting my words that I can't be present with you here. And that's, if anything, when I take people through the 12 days to confidence on camera, that's really what I'm teaching, how to be utterly, authentically present. Wim Hof had that down. I'm sure the many years of experience that he's been doing this and his own methodologies allow him to connect into himself so that he can show up and do these things no matter what. Okay, so that was the first thing I noticed, this very strong sense of presence. The other feeling that I had was like I was the only person he was speaking to. And I've experienced this only a handful of times. I can literally count it on one hand, where you ask a question of somebody and they get present and they answer you, and it's almost, my experience visually is almost like I get tunnel vision. I can only see that person that I'm speaking to, and in that moment I'm deeply connected with them and they're deeply connected with me. Now, if you are a coach or a mentor or work as a guide, work with people, maybe you deal in trauma or anything else like that, if you don't have that skill in your toolkit, you are missing a massive opportunity to transform not only the people's world that you're speaking to, but the person and yours too. You transform the world by the work that you do. You transform that person. You don't do something to them, but you are able just to connect with them on a really deep level that they feel understood. They feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel understood. And in turn, your connection to them has a greater connection for you. So it's a win-win all round. Win-win all round in this case, pardon the pun. Okay? So this is an important thing too. And then he answered the question, and I'm going to paraphrase him, and I'm not an expert in the work that he does. And I have to say, I have yet to read his book, but I definitely will, I've kind of follow him, and I like audio and I like video, and I will read his book too. But what he said was quite profound. So for anyone that doesn't know, endometriosis carries with it, for many people that live with endometriosis, extraordinary pain. It's a really indescribable pain. The closest that I can say is it's like childbirth, but I know I don't have children, another story for another time, probably like connected to endometriosis, but having delivered twins, preterm, albeit, you know, smaller twins, and gone through childbirth, and gone through the pains of childbirth. And I know this feels like an overshare, but hey, it's the weekend, and you get to know me as a person too, not just my brand and not just the visibility stuff and not just the vibe system. I can honestly say, going through extreme periods of pain before that experience of childbirth, it was immense. There were days I couldn't stand up straight. There were days I couldn't, you know, go to work back in the day. It felt almost unbearable. And the pain would radiate to very different parts and areas of your body too. But what he said in his response was that pain is stress, and he says that in a lot of his videos. Pain is stress. And our ability to heal our own pain, or our ability to almost administer our body to administer things to help our own pain, is something that we can do. And the reason why a lot of us can't do it is because we've lost our internal, we've kind of disconnected in a way from ourselves, which is true. Think of all the distractions in the day, mindfulness practice that many people still don't have any modicum of that. And that's not a diss, it's not a judgment, it's an observation. When we can connect internally with ourselves, deeply with ourselves, we have the ability then to almost reach that pain and do something about it. And his methodology can help to facilitate that. He talked about a few other things in terms of, he basically didn't say to me, go run and plunge into, or tell people to plunge into a cold ice bath straight away. He talked about a gradual process. He talked about research that's being done and research that's been done around pain, and he talked about 3 weeks. Think about this. 3 weeks. Starting with some minor discomfort at being in cold water, in comparison to my journey of 27 years of experiencing quite extreme pain. Thankfully, in the middle of those 27 years, for whatever reason, medical and everything else, but definitely not really painkillers, I did have, large quantities of time where I didn't experience anywhere near the pain that I had done in my 20s. And following that, I've had experiences where I have been in pain, but I still rock up, I still show up, I still do the stuff that I do. I don't allow that to stop me, because let's face it, me doing a 15, 20-minute video or a live is a small slice of my life compared to all of those decades that I've lived through, okay? So our ability to connect with ourselves, to reach our intuition, our pain receptors, to be able to deal with our internal pain and to deal with whatever stress is being caused by that pain is powerful, don't you think? It's profound, don't you think? So if you or someone you know has experienced something like that and maybe not had any kind of relief or the results that you wished for through kind of the medical thing. I'm not saying throw the medical book away. I'm saying explore some of the things, that Wim speaks about in his work. So finally, the change that this had for me, the transformation that this had for me, I've got lots of like mentors, peers, friends, people that do cold water swimming and all of that often talk about, come and do it, come and, try it. And I'm like, I'm firm, I'm a definite no. Hell no. Me and cold aren't friends. But his response, his answer, his explanation, his examples had me think differently. So I have to admit, don't get me wrong, I'm not going from no, I'd never do it, to yes, I'm going to do it every day starting from today, which is kind of silly because it would help me manage any pain relief that I have. It did have me think, you know what, I'd consider doing that. And that is transformation, because every day of my life I meet people that say, I can't put myself out there, I can't be visible, and then they'll come and do either the video confidence thing and find themselves, being out there more, doing stuff. The lovely, beautiful group of people who decided to go live 365 days of the year. Some have decided to go live and mix it with video, a bit like me. Some of them have decided just to do it Monday to Friday, which is cool, but for a year. Do you know how much pain they would have gone through, whether they're confident or not, what the pain barrier that they broke through to get to the place of at first saying yes to themselves to doing it, and then actually doing it. And each and every one of those people have done their video on a daily basis. And I couldn't be more proud of them, because at that point, this is nothing to do with me. I almost facilitate, and I feel quite emotional saying this, but I will facilitate these experiences for people. And if they back themselves, if they bet on themselves, and if they say yes to themselves, then they'll go ahead and do it. If they don't do it, that's not down to me to judge or to make them right or to make them wrong or to make them anything else in between. But when they do it, it opens up such a new world of possibility, of opportunity for them, which goes far beyond the visibility that you might have been told about, the likes, the shares, the loves. If you do that for others, you will feel disappointed when things don't work out in the way that you hoped they would or you thought they were supposed to. So don't do it for others, do it for you. Show up for you in service of others. So that's what I wanted to say. I know I'm still percolating, and I will actually journal on this. I'm not a frequent journaler, I'm not frequent enough journaler, but I will pick out the pieces from just that one segment. Can you imagine? And there were 2 days of really great people talking about all sorts of things, from sales to public speaking to business building, to looking at whether it's a small business, larger business, and so many juicy people that I got to hug and squeeze in person too. Thank you so much for watching this, and do share it if you know somebody who's been through that journey. Hopefully by osmosis, something that I've shared from what Wim said might just be helpful to them too. That's it. Bye for now.